So here I have him in my kitchen because, as you see, those feet are very muddy, and the kitchen is a place where muddy dogs are allowed to be, but the rest of the house is not. So this is a good example of something where I might be hanging out on the other side of the baby gate, and I want to notice when he lays down. Actually, I think they're a little bit thirsty right now, and they don't have a water bowl in here because it makes an even bigger mess. So I'm gonna do that in a second here. So just, this is relevant because it's like, mental note, basic need hasn't been met. So I'm gonna get more demand barking if I notice that there's a basic need that potentially has not been met. So I got barked at again. I'm gonna turn around. Okay, so Eno and Falkor just came in from the backyard, and they are super excited and totally muddy. So we are gonna practice some downs in the kitchen. Well, I should rephrase that, I guess. We're not just practicing downs in the kitchen. It's not like an obedience behavior kind of thing. I want him to practice when I want something, I should lay down, especially when there's a counter available. He does a lot of counter surfing. So I have them in here. Let me turn the camera on. Another note about demand barking. So really important piece, besides just making sure that the dog has a different way to be able to ask you for something, and besides just not rewarding the demand barking in the first place. So those are kind of two prongs. The third prong of the approach is making sure that all the needs are met at all times, which is really hard at 6 months because the needs change heavily. Potentially even sometimes week to week. So I would say that, when he was this age, he would sometimes have much higher physical needs. He was fidgety, his body was moving a lot, and I needed to get him out for more cardio in order to make sure that he was okay at home. And then, a few weeks later, something would shift, and his body was a lot calmer. He's not so fidgety and moving around so much, but he's maybe doing more things like chewing inappropriate objects, or mischief, naughty behavior, like grabbing contraband items. And so that often indicates to me that the mental needs aren't being met. So in those cases, I'll often kind of not worry as much about the cardio stuff, emphasize more on the mental end. So playing training games with him often, amping up the mental enrichment that he gets. So feeding in more creative ways. Like I might just scatter a ton in the grass so that he's doing a lot of sniffing. Or I might feed a meal by, putting it in a shoebox and putting a bunch of toys on top of that and closing the box, or getting a bunch of crumpled up paper, like what gets packaged and all the things that we order off of online now, taking all that packaging material and turning that into a diggy food puzzle that he has to work through in order to access the food. So those kinds of things will help you a lot in terms of, and I know that's obvious, meet basic needs first, but really it's hard because you got to get to know the dog and figure out what on earth their basic needs are. I will say for his age, Falkor is a little less chewy than I would expect, which is lovely. Very nice for me in my house. But he is definitely busy-brained. He will, it seems like, find contraband items if he's bored. He will start demand barking. He will start jumping and counter surfing more. And so for me, I've realized, and of course it takes a couple days to learn this sort of thing, so 5 days is very long. So I don't know that I've really changed a ton in terms of his actual muscle memory, but hopefully I've primed you to be able to carry on this work. So I've been giving him a lot of activities to do, and I've been kind of stopping in the middle of the day to do super short little training sessions with him. So I really mean 2 to 5 minutes, nothing more than that. It shouldn't be something that feels not doable for you. If it feels like, oh my God, this is way too much training the dog, then you're probably doing it too much anyway, because it's probably too much for him anyway. So really make sure that those training sessions are nice and short. Okay, so with Falkor's demand barking, which not sure how prevalent that is with you, but I'm sure getting a lot of it, especially for the first 48 hours. And I'm guessing that you are too, because you mentioned barking and jumping in your paperwork, and I know that you mentioned that when we were talking to, wow, how perfect. He's demand barking at me right now. So actually what I'm going to do is leave the kitchen when he does that. He's seemed to respond really well to actually being more actively ignored versus passive ignoring. So I differentiate those two by active ignoring is actually leaving. I'll usually start a different activity. I might do something like look out the window. Oh, what's that over here? Something really human-y. Something that Falkor knows is oh, that's not That's not what humans do when they interact with me. Open the window, maybe close the window. Might act like I'm like doing something. Like I'll often wash my hands, is a common thing I'll do when I get demand barked at. And then I will work on, sorry, excuse me, sorry for my cold, teaching a behavior instead that is a way that they know they can always access reinforcement. So that's called a default behavior, something a dog does to say please, or ask for something. And so what I've been working on with Falkor is default down. And then I'm going to make a mental note to get them a water bowl. I don't necessarily want him to think that barking at me makes me go get him a water bowl, right? I can understand that risk if that's what you're thinking, but I do want him to know that humans are going to meet his basic needs. And I also think that if I didn't do anything, I think he would potentially escalate. So, and get more barky. So in adolescence, that is totally, especially in this young stage of adolescence, that is totally a reasonable thing to do. Oh my gosh, I came back and he's laying down. Yay, we're laying down and chewing on a tiny piece of nature that was on the floor. Okay, so I'm just gonna treat that. Again, pardon the mess. We clean up pretty well when we don't have a border, but when we have borders, we let things go for a bit. For obvious reasons. So I always want to reward those downs when he's doing them right now, because he is still, and especially when he's asking me for something, which in this case I think he's asking me for my attention more than water, but I think he should drink water. So I'm going to bring it over to them, which I need both hands. Okay, so we're in the kitchen. It's nice and muddy. This is a place where muddy dogs are allowed to be in my house, and there's not really any other place in my house that muddy dogs would be. So I have a couple options in here. I do have a gate that I will sometimes put from the fridge through the island to the back door to actually block off the counters, which is an option. So I can basically make a small little pen, like a kennel run in here, which helps me out if I can't supervise. But in this case, I am in a position to supervise. I have my laptop here, and I am totally happy and content to do some work, you know, kind of standing in the kitchen, so that I can supervise Puppy for, you know, half hour, 40 minutes or whatever. And by the way, chewing, he's just chewing on little pieces of stick that he brought in and chewed on a stick in here, which is fine with me because it's my kitchen, and kitchen, you know, you got to kind of pick your battles with this age range. So for me, kitchen is an okay place to have nature in when you are this young. Yeah, so it really means that he's not as busy doing other naughty things, which is fine with me. So I am totally fine to just kind of work in the kitchen for a little bit so that I can supervise. And one thing I want to do, yes, it just happened, oh my gosh, that was so perfect, is reward anytime he just randomly offers a down in the kitchen. I like for that to be a dog's default behavior in a kitchen. I know some people don't like dogs laying down in the kitchen at all because they can get in the way. If that's the case, I would just always have on the outside of the baby gate until you have that muscle memory really solid, in which case you could remove the baby gate. Obviously, this is a behavior my dogs also know, and Boone also knows that when we have a puppy over, there are a lot more treats available. Because at this age, you're doing a whole lot of treats, you know. You really aren't doing nearly as much of that at this age, or definitely not at that age. Boone's 7, and I don't know that I ever really need to use a lot of treats with him at this point. But I do, because he deserves them. Anyway, so I am just making a point to, I'll sometimes even make a point to have something available on the counter. Like I could even set my treats up like this so that while I'm working, I can reward any of those downs that get offered to me. This way, a dog is learning that anytime there is reinforcement available on the counter, they should not hop up to get it. The best way to get to it is actually to lay down. So this is a really helpful skill. That was an accident, but whatever. And so, yeah, the more muscle memory that you have practice with this, the more you have just a default down in the kitchen, which I think would help you out a ton. Okay, so another thing I want to say about default downs, I'm going to have a mock bar restaurant set up here. Yeah, that works well. Is that I really like it to be my dog's default behavior that when I sit down, they lay down. So for this, we're going to practice as if we were at an actual bar or restaurant. We did a tiny bit of practice with this with him, but at an actual bar, but he seemed really unclear about what the ask was. He seemed unclear about what I wanted from him. He was offering a lot of different behavior, like sit down, up again, and every time I'd reward the down, he'd like pop back up again, you know, and I was like, anyway, sorry, my phone just told me that my battery's dying. Anyway, and so I was like, you know what, I don't feel like we have enough clarity and rehearsal with this to be able to practice at an actual bar. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna make a mock bar and set him up for success by teaching him the skill that we want before we take it to the more exciting place. So if I were you, I would take a break from practicing this in public. I would practice a lot at your house with his normal gear on, and then see if you get a different behavior in public. So what I'm gonna do is, well, where are you going? Where are you going? Come on back. There you go. That's a good boy. Okay, so first I sit down, and then I'm gonna immediately ask him to down. Falkor, down. He's an interesting dog who thinks that he needs to sit first in order to lay down. That's not true. He can lay down from a stand. I would, if I were you, actually practice that. You can't see him very well on frame right now, but basically I am rewarding his down, right? Obviously, I'm just putting treats in between his paws. I want to put the treats in between his paws instead of feeding to his mouth, because that's going to keep him more stationary, more anchored, and just kind of get the restaurant vibe a lot better. I'm going to scooch over to see if we can, on the next rep, maybe see him a little better. Sorry, I don't have a way to tilt my camera down. You'll just have to trust me. Okay, I'm going to get him up again. You going to do another rep? We're going to go sit at our table again. All right, good boy. Good boy. And so I'm walking into the restaurant, and I'm going to sit down at my table. And I'm going to ask him to do the same. His role is Falkor, down. Oh good, you can't see him this time. So, good boy, good job. And then I'll just reward that right away. Eventually, I don't need to cue the down. Eventually, me being seated becomes what's called an environmental cue. So dogs learn every time something happens in the environment I'm about to be asked to. So they'll start skipping that middle cue and just going straight to the behavior. Good boy, you did great. All right, now we're gonna get out of our restaurant and get back in. This is gonna be the last rep, and then I'll try to tell you what comes next. All right, we're taking our seat. Good job. Good job. And let's wait and see if he offers me this behavior. He may or may not. I'm gonna say not, because this morning's been a little bit wild. Let's see. Oh, well that's lovely. You can tell he just sat. I'm gonna let him work through this. Yay! Wow! Beautiful job. So if he's going to come up with the idea on his own, let him, because that's going to actually make you a more solid habit down the line, more solid muscle memory. So that's what you want. At this point, if I got a bunch of clean reps of this, I would say the next day, so tomorrow, I would do the exact same thing that I've been doing, except next time each rep would last longer. So I might, instead of working a little bit in the kitchen, I might take my laptop out here, or you could do this in your actual indoor table, but I think you'll get a better behavior for practicing outside. Anyway, and then I would actually start putting some food here, or maybe putting my laptop here, and so I'm doing something, and I'm going to intermittently reward him for maintaining that down. Right now, as you can see, he's not quite ready for the next level. He's only had 3 reps of this exercise, so I would do several more reps and more rehearsal before you bump anything up to the harder level. Just always, right? You're gonna get the easy stuff done, then you get the easy medium stuff done, and then you get the medium stuff done. So I would say right now you're working on teaching the easy level. Now that he is so excited about being in public that he would rather demand bark at you or just get busy, it's time to try and break that habit and teach a brand new one that's really, really solid that you can put in that crappy habits place. Okay, the very last thing I want to say about default downs is incorporating it into play. So I have a very exciting toy here. It's kind of fishing pole style toy. It's called a flirt pole. Some people call it a chase it. And I'm going to practice teaching him that the way to get me to play with this toy is to lay down. Ready, kid? Oh, he's a good boy. Falkor, come. Good. Down. I think he's getting a little tired. It's been a long morning. I would normally at this point be putting him away for a nap, but since you guys are about to come pick him up, I'm not going to do that. Good job. Okay, I'm going to ask for easier behavior, and then this one. Good job. Good boy. Now I'm going to see if I can get another one, because that was a little bit weak. I got kind of blown off. Get it. All right, and let's see if I can get another one. Good boy. Down. This time without needing to sit first. Yay! And take it. Good job. Good job. So with these kinds of toys, you might already know this, but you should stay more or less on the ground, or at least at or below his spinal level. You don't want to do actual fishing pole yet, although I just did it a couple times. You don't want to do it a ton, I guess, is the point of what I'm saying, is you don't want that to be the main play that you do with this, because they're just not, these little bodies are not developed enough for that kind of thing yet. He is a springy dog who would love to do springy things, and so it's easy for him to start getting jumpy even when it's just slightly above his spinal height, or even when it's below still. As you see, I'm still getting a little bit of jumpy looking stuff. And good job! Okay, so I'm going to pick it up. He just got some really good chasing. I'm going to do a little bit of a scatter, see if he can eat some of those. Good boy. That's also a way to kind of gauge where he's at. Where's your brain at? Can you eat a scatter? At first he said no, now he's saying, okay, yeah, right. And food's helpful here because it is going to actually bring his arousal level down. Getting my behavior again. Take it. Good job, good boy. All right, very good. Oh, you caught it, you caught it. You're so tough. You're so cool. You're so tough. Now again, same thing with tug. You want to keep tug side to side, like this, and not up down. That would just be too much on their spine. So if he wants to play a little tug with this, that's fine. I'm going to kind of creep down the toy so that I've got a better angle. I'm going to play a little tug. It's also going to make the toy less likely to break, although they do break a lot, so is what it is. Gotta love disposable plastic. Anyway, so I'm going to get a drop with my trade. Oh, you don't like my trade? Alright, well that's good information. I'm going to wait it out a sec and make my toy a little bit more boring. You can see he's kind of, oh, he's starting to let go a little bit there. I still have food available to him. I think you can probably tell where my hands are. And I'm just gonna wait. Boring toy. The only reason I am actually following through on this is because I used the cue, D-R-O-P. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just seen if he would take my trade, and if he didn't, I would just move on and do a different thing. But since I said this word, I actually do kind of want to follow through on what I said. Alright, so a lot of the time making the toy less exciting will be enough to get a dog to let go. It kind of depends on the toy though, so there we go. Good job. Good boy. Very good. And I want to reward that letting go pretty heavily. One of the main ways I want to reward it is actually with more play, so I'm going to do it again. Down. Just so we can immediately, yay, take it! Good job! Just so we can immediately reward that with more play. If you ever have an instance where it's kind of hard to get a drop it in a play session like this, I would definitely make sure that that's not the end of your session, is when they let go. That's going to make your drop it a lot worse in the long run. I'd love for you to have a really strong drop it, because that could be a life-saving skill one day. And so yeah. Alright, he's having fun. Don't end your play session if drop it's too hard. Instead, just don't ask for a drop it. Here, just have this toy. I don't care. He's gonna let it go in a minute anyway, because he has a really short attention span, and then I'll be prepared to pick it up. Or if he starts opening the toy and de-stuffing it, that's also not really that big of a deal. It's a lot bigger of a deal to have a dog who's really accustomed to being told to drop something and then being really accustomed to not dropping it. So that was a really good learning experience for me. It's probably also cool for you to see me make mistakes. So yeah, don't use your drop it cue if you don't think he can do it.